You find an old photograph, nothing special, a birthday party, a school hallway, a kitchen that doesn't exist anymore. And for a second, your chest aches in a way that has no name. You call it nostalgia, a fond little ache, a pleasant flip through the past. But the real answer is far stranger. Nostalgia isn't a memory, it's your brain grieving for a version of the world that has already ended. Start with the word itself. Nostalgia comes from two Greek roots, nostos, meaning homecoming, and algos, meaning pain. Homecoming pain, not homesickness in the soft greeting card sense. The original meaning was closer to a wound. In the 17th century, a Swiss physician named Johannes Hofer coined the term to describe soldiers stationed far from home who grew physically ill with longing. They lost their appetite. Their hearts raced. Some of them died. Doctors at the time treated it as a disease, something to be cured, not indulged. That should tell you something important. Nostalgia was never designed to feel merely wistful. It was designed to feel like loss, because that is exactly what it is. Here's where it gets interesting. Neuroscientist Christine Bacho, who has spent decades studying nostalgia at Lemoyne College, found that the feeling isn't really about the past event itself. It's about the self you were when that event happened. When you feel nostalgic for a summer, a friendship, a smell drifting out of a stranger's kitchen, you are not actually mourning the place or the people. You are mourning a version of yourself who no longer exists. The teenager who felt invincible. The child who trusted every adult in the room. That person is gone, and no amount of photographs can bring them back. Think about that for a second. You don't grieve people only when they die. You grieve identities too. And every one of us carries dozens of small deaths inside us. The kid who believed in something simple. The person you were before a specific loss reshaped you. Nostalgia is the ceremony your mind holds for all of them, on a loop, without asking your permission. Why would a brain build a ritual like that? Because forgetting the self you used to be would be dangerous. Psychologist Konstantin Sedekidis, one of the leading researchers on the subject, found that nostalgia increases feelings of social connectedness and even boosts a sense of meaning in life. It isn't a malfunction, it's a stabilizer. When the present feels uncertain, your brain reaches backward, pulls out evidence that you have survived change before and uses it to steady you. That is the twist. The ache isn't your brain failing to let go. It's your brain proving, again and again, that you are the kind of creature who can lose an entire world and keep living in the next one. Because that is what being human actually requires. Every stage of your life is its own small civilization. It has its own language, its own social rules, its own version of you as the main character. And then, without ceremony, that civilization ends. You graduate, you move, the friend group dissolves, the house gets sold, nobody announces it. There's no funeral for a phase of your life. It simply stops and a new one begins, and you are expected to keep walking as if nothing happened. But something did happen. A version of your world ended, and your brain quietly insists on marking that. This is where the research gets stranger still. Psychologist Clay Routledge, who has studied nostalgia extensively, found that the feeling spikes most sharply during periods of transition and uncertainty, not during periods of comfort. People become more nostalgic right before a big change, not after they've settled into a new life, which means nostalgia isn't primarily backward looking at all. It's a coping mechanism your brain deploys specifically when the ground beneath you is shifting. It reaches for the past because the past is the one thing that can no longer change, in a moment when everything else can. That reframes the photograph entirely. You don't feel that ache because you wish you were still in the picture. You feel it because right now, in this unstable present, your brain needed proof that stability once existed. And it went and found some. There's a modern complication worth naming. Never before in human history have people had this much visual access to their own past. Every day, phones surface old photos. Social media reminds you what you posted 7 years ago today. Old songs autoplay into your ears without warning. Your ancestors experienced nostalgia in flashes, triggered by a smell or a familiar street. You experience it on a schedule, algorithmically, sometimes multiple times a day. The ritual that was once rare and sacred has become constant background noise. Your grief for your past selves used to have room to breathe. Now it competes for attention with your grocery list. That matters, because Bacho's research also found something else. Nostalgia, in moderate doses, genuinely helps people. It reduces loneliness. It increases optimism about the future. But triggered too often, without space to actually process what's being mourned, that same feeling can tip toward rumination. The difference between a healthy visit to the past and a harmful one isn't the memory itself. It's whether you're allowed to feel it fully and then return, or whether you're being pulled backward on a loop you never chose. So, what do you do with an ache like this? You don't need to cure it. It was never a disease, whatever that 17th century physician believed. It's evidence. Evidence that you were once fully present somewhere, that a version of you loved something enough to miss it later, that your life has had chapters worth closing. The next time an old photograph catches you off guard, or a song from a specific summer stops you mid-step, try not to brush the feeling aside. That ache is not weakness, and it is not simply memory replaying itself. It is your brain doing something remarkably human, standing at the edge of a world that no longer exists and refusing to pretend it never mattered. You find an old photograph, nothing special, and this time you understand exactly what that ache is for. It isn't sadness for no reason. It's your mind, quietly grieving for yesterday so that you're strong enough to actually live in today.